Walis, and I teach audio production. Well, I've been involved in audio for 45 years. I got involved quite young. I've been teaching for audio production anyway for 20 years. I've always been fascinated with sound. I think part of being a late boomer, if you will, is I got to experience a real impressive rise in audio quality, audio technology. For example, when I was a kid, televisions had a single speaker, a car had a single speaker in the dashboard, and people consumed music, if at all privately, through a single earpiece in your ear. And watching and being a part of these increases, so we went from mono to stereo, and from stereo to these incredibly detailed audio productions, just seeing that quality increase while I was at an impressionable age really impacted me. Probably the best moment I've ever had to do with an adult education program that I was involved with in another college. I did some work at Union College, and they had an adult program, and most of the adult students were senior citizens. Union College is a historic college. They've been around since the late 1700s. Ironically, they would hold most of the classes in a chapel environment. This environment was built like a Dutch Reformed church, huge, expansive, echoey, and most of the participants really couldn't make heads or tails out of what they heard because of the challenges of the environment. The long story short was I was able to connect with a few of the really senior students who had significant hearing issues. And the first time I was able to connect them with assistive listening, where they were able to put on a radio earpiece and for them to be able to hear what's going on around them. The look on this gentleman's face in particular, the day I hooked him up, we were going to test. I took a few steps away and turned my back and just spoke to him through my wireless mic, and the sound was sent straight to his hearing aids. And the look on his face was like a 6-year-old, this look of wonder and glee. It was like a 6-year-old on Christmas morning. Just to know that made an impact, and it was a formative change for him. He was able to wear these devices and assist him not only in this situation, but even just in social gatherings. And every now and then he would write me a little letter or send me a little postcard, just reminding me of how thankful he was. That's a great question. I make my living, I don't have to know everything. I just have to know more than most people, sooner than most people. It seems that there's always this wave that I'm surfing of what is the cutting edge technology. And it's interesting that you say, bracket it in terms of 10 years, because one might think, wow, things have changed so much in 10 years. I have to tell you that in my experience, there was radical changes when I first got involved in this in the 70s and 80s. And that's when I studied electronic technology. It's really when I formalized my knowledge of the field. But I have to say that from the 70s and 80s, dare I say, I've witnessed a lot of refinement, but really not a lot of innovation. It really hasn't changed much. I'm sure things have gotten better and faster and cheaper and all that, but they're just refinements on very old workflows. Up until about a year and a half ago, AI is everywhere now, and it actually entered into the audio business a bit earlier than most, long before ChatGPT and AI-generated images and video enhancements. Audio was one of the first things to enjoy AI. One was an assistive technology, speech-to-text for captioning. Used to be a very primitive and complicated and expensive affair. Now, Google Chrome has it built in for free, and its accuracy rate is in the high 90s. But more importantly, the AI algorithms have now made their way into audio production tools. And although audio production has a scientific part, there's also a very human subjective part. How do you describe something that sounds good? So it's one thing when you're dealing with dialogue, noise reduction, repair work. That's one sector. But when it comes to a subjective thing like mixing sound for music production, you would think that that's entirely human. And how could a machine possibly do even a decent job of that? And I'm amazed and enthused that some of the tools that are out now really shorten the process. You can arrive at very, very good results very quickly. The technology isn't prohibitively expensive. It really is within reach. And it's changing the way that audio, just changes the whole workflow. So the advice I would give is don't underestimate the complexity of the topic. That audio is a multifaceted discipline. Not only is there science and physics, but there's also psychology. There's a little biology. We have to understand hearing. We have to understand people's emotional response to how audio makes them feel, what really tickles that nerve of, wow, that sounds good. And although it might be tempting to think with these new tools that we need to know less because the tools will do more of the heavy lifting, far from it. It's a complex world. It is getting exponentially more complicated as the time passes. It's an art science. And it's something that needs to be, if it's a road you're going to go down, it's something that you need to be regularly involved with. If working on audio productions is something you think is your idea of fun, you're on the right path. But if those things feel tedious, if that feels like an effort, probably in the wrong field.